Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in all of sports. Please welcome driver of the number 5 Aero Electronics Honda for Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, the winner of this year's Grand Prix of Louisiana, the mayor of Hitchtown, your own James Hinchcliffe, to give the command.
Hey, Toronto, are we ready to get this race going? In that case, drivers, start your engines.
Engines fire, and that would have been tough for Hinch too, because he would dearly love to be on this Verizon IndyCar Series grid for his home race. Let's head to the grid. Here's Jan.
And Will Power is feeling a little numb right now, but he is numb by design. He's received a shot in that thumb that Lee mentioned was fractured at Detroit. But maybe he's just caught a break. Because they're now going to go with a single foul restart, he doesn't have Simon Pagenaud next to him. He has to protect that thumb. And Kevin, that might be a big break for him because Pagenaud will be challenging him.
Well, they have certainly had some very well-documented tangles in the past. Fierce rivals now trying to play nice as teammates. But Simon Pagenaud isn't thinking about Will Power. He wants the result. Just 11th point with one podium in his first season with Team Penske. He wants to survive to get to the second half of that race game.
Kevin, it's been 7 years since Grant Rahal won his one and only Verizon IndyCar Series race. But this year may be his best shot to get his second. He's a leading Honda, sitting 5th in points after 2 podiums and another 5th place. But if you ask him the difference this season, it's the guys right here in pit lane. Robin?
Here's some numbers you're not going to believe. Ryan Hunter race starts 16th. He's 13th in the points. He hasn't led one lap in 2015. As he said in our report card segment, this has been a disastrous season, a dismal season. We got to turn it around somewhere. What better place to start than Toronto in the rain?
And he really does need to, doesn't he, Robin? He's won here. He knows how to see that checkered flag first. We wish Ryan Hunter-Reay all the best. Quick reminder for you not to miss a chance to get in on Honda's fastest seat in sports sweepstakes by entering at shophonda.com. I know that you see this in each and every Verizon IndyCar Series broadcast in the Honda 2-seater. Stephen Wong from Mississauga, Ontario is our lucky winner today. Stephen, I'm not sure, can you hear us?
Oh my gosh, that's fun.
And we just decided to spice things up a little bit with your driver, Martin Plowman, to make it wet, make it a little greasier, and make it a little more exciting. Enjoy the ride.
Hey, guys.
There he is.
Oh, that's fun.
I bet it is. And we've seen this happen before, that's for sure. And simply by Stephen logging on to shophonda.com, he won the opportunity to start today's race riding along with IndyCar driver Martin Plowman. So Stephen Wong, well done. And you can get in on that. A reminder that no purchase is necessary. And I love these close-up shots of the track. It just shows us how greasy, how treacherous it is. And there you have it. Power on our mother's polished starting grid. It's an all Penske front row, but remember, they will start single file. Good idea, bad idea?
Well, I think it's a good idea. I think they need to get these guys going, limit the spray to the drivers. The visibility is going to be important for the first couple laps, and that's going to be the most important thing, is that these guys can get spread out a little bit, get the race going, and hopefully stay green. You see Montoya on the second row. Dixon, he's a big charge in the championship.
Further back here we are on row 3, Sebastian Bourdais alongside Filippi, but look at this, is it also Chevy, 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 a lot of Chevys up the front. That's going to change a little bit further back. Here is Takuma Sato, look, the first of our Honda runners with a 59.950. But again, guys, remember what we were talking about earlier on. If that rain does come back, watch for that Honda Aero package to start working at its best.
As we let you enjoy to pick out where your favorite driver is seated as far as the mother's polished starting grid, Paul, okay, you're starting here where Detroit winner Carlos Munoz is back on the 7th row. What do you do? There's going to be so much spray. It's going to be so tricky. You just got to dodge the bullets as they come your way.
Well, it's like Roger said, and I said in the pre-race, you got to keep it on the track, but keeping it on the track is harder to do than just saying it. So he did a fantastic job in Detroit. As we see Connor Daly, another guy that did a fantastic job in the rain in Detroit. He's got a good shot at moving forward, as well as Gabi Chavez.
Tristan Vautier is back in the Dale Coyne entry, along with Rodolfo Gonzalez as well, back on the 12th row of the grid. And you were just listening to the voice of Paul Tracy, the only Canadian to have ever won this race, and he has done it twice. Connor Daly will give us this on-board view aboard the Arrow Schmidt-Peterson machine with thanks to Lucas Oil. And we heard from Connor in our IndyCar Live Verizon countdown. So hopefully he can come up with another result like he did in Detroit for his campaign. We wish him well. How about Charlie Kimball? He gives us this Levermere view. This is what his onboard looks like as one of 4 of Chip Ganassi Racing's cars. We switch over to Joseph Newgarden, of course, the Barber Motorsports Park winner. And Joseph gives us this view via Verizon. There are 3 black cars in today's race, incidentally, and Joseph has a big fluorescent yellow roll hoop, so he'll be easy to spot. Graham Rahal, with thanks to Fight SMA, will give us this view. How well will he be in the mix? We'll find out. He runs well on road and street circuits, that's for sure. And Tony Kanaan, with thanks to NTT Data, will give us this view. Can TK bring up his first win on the streets of Toronto? We will find out. And Simon Pagenaud, the Verizon streaming car. And a quick reminder that it's all about adrenaline on demand. Download the IndyCar 15 mobile app and get amazing live streams from in-car cameras and a whole lot more. As you always know, it's only from Verizon. So while we see some spray on those onboard lenses, just wait and see how stable and steady this weather is. And the promising thing there, Steve, is that we're on the back end of that. It has already, the majority of that cell has already moved through.
Yeah, there it is. You can see green is rain and green moving over to the right of the shot. There's downtown Toronto there. So again, it's going to be crucial now for the guys to stay out of trouble and then wait for that track to dry. And Paul, as you know, the all-important question from the strategist and the driver, when to make the shift from wet tires to dry tires.
Well, and also the key as well, as we talked to Tim Cindric, he said, you know, the most important thing is not the... There's as Cindric talks just now. The most important thing is not softer springs or stiffer springs. It was gear ratios. They have different gear ratios for the rain. They're on much shorter gears because you're going slower on the straight. If it dries and you've run those rain gears, you'll be out of gear, and a guy who went with dry gears will have a huge speed advantage on the straightaway.
Folks, just think about this. They're on public roads, they're on concrete, they're on asphalt, there's manhole covers, they're in parking lots. It is a mixed surface, to say the least. This corner here is quite a tricky one as well. This track is a beautiful blend of speed, tight corners. Oh, and look at that Pagenaud. The rear end steps out already. This is Indy Toronto. It's round 10 and the green flag flies. Will Power, the defending series champ, hits turn 1. Here comes Montoya having a look, trying to stay out of the spray of Pagenaud.
And you can see Montoya already using an alternate rain line. He's avoiding that concrete. And you'll see a lot of guys run on the concrete, and you'll see them try to avoid the concrete as we come down to the back straightaway. Look at the spray off of these cars, and we'll see in turn 3 how many guys take the wide line or run across that ice slippery concrete.
And this is very much, Steve, an exploratory lap, so to speak, to Kumasato on the inside there of Elio Castro Neves. We ride with Tony Kanaan. Have a listen. Tiptoe, tiptoe. Whoa!
Sato around the outside trying to make that move. We have a couple cars spun here at the end of the straightaway.
That's
your man Coletti
and Tristan Vautier.
And they got going, so no yellows, which is good.
Yeah, they
keep
got
this
going.
thing moving.
And that's just what we were talking about, isn't it? This exploratory lap. Again, you've got to just stay out of trouble and keep picking out that drying line. Hopefully a drying line, but you can lose the race so easily on that first lap. You ain't going to win it.
Will Power, Simon Pagenaud, Juan Pablo Montoya, Scott Dixon. Through back to Sebastian Bourdais. So they're running as per qualifying at the moment.
And as long as the rain is not raining, this track will drive very, very quickly. They have massive amounts of downforce on these cars, and it will just suck the water off the track as we see Joseph Newgarden sideways coming out onto the long Lakeshore back straightaway. The downforce level, Steve, that they run will just suck the water right off the track.
How about that? Look at this. Luca Filippi's under pressure from Takuma Sato. He got by Elio Castro Neves. Kanaan's had his hands full. Rahal almost lost it. Newgarden got a front row view of that. Here comes Ryan Hunter-Ray up the inside of Charlie Kimball. Did he get it done? As we look back, no, he didn't. Kimball hangs on to it.
Yeah, it's so tempting to take that inside line, especially around turn 1. And as Paul was describing earlier on, straight onto that ultra slick concrete, not the asphalt, and then the car just slides away. You've got to be very careful to pick your points if you're going to try and overtake maneuver around these first couple of laps.
Sato Castronevers are still fighting from the green flag. So these guys all running nose to tail as we ride with Graham Rahal. You'll see the spray coming off the car in front. And that slipping, sliding, big bumps down here.
No pressure.
No pressure from behind. He's just looking at Kanaan up ahead. Jan?
And for Graham Rahal, he made a change in the morning warm-up to the car that they did overnight and said, now the car is come alive. He says, I feel like the car now has more, it's more forgiving. And in these kind of conditions, Paul, you need something that's forgiving because these cars are dumping all over the place. But Graham thinks he has something much better today than what he had yesterday.
Yeah, Jan, yesterday I was chatting to Graham about the balance of the car, and he was saying exactly that. Didn't feel happy in the car, felt like the back end of the car wanted to keep stepping out, and a little bit of it right there. Yeah, so not altogether a perfect car, but again, if the driver feels more confident with that setup, that's the way to go.
And you know, we were talking about earlier about these deflection on the front wings. And, you know, when you slow the cars down in these type of conditions, it seems as though, Steve, the Honda works a lot better than it does when they're really pushing to the limit trying to get the lap time.
The more you push these cars, and particularly with that Honda Aero kit, the more it seems to me that those cascade elements, particularly on the front wings, start to flutter. And if they flutter, the air will become unattached, and you just downforce on the car.
So the running order hasn't changed. Power, Pagenaud, Montoya, Dixon, Bourdais, Filippi, Sato. Sato is the best Honda runner. What do you got here, PT?
Yeah, as we see the different lines here, Rahal's taking an outside line around this concrete, and you see Kanaan over here on the concrete. So that's two varying lines of how to get around in the wet.
Nice job.
Everyone line astern. I tell you what, the conduct has been pretty impressive thus far, hasn't it? Nobody doing anything too wild. We did see an incident with Stefano Coletti a little earlier, and Tristan Vautier. They're down in 22nd and 23rd. And again, Rahal takes that wide line around the concrete patch. Kev?
Tony Kanaan is starting to challenge his old friend, Helio Castroneves. TK is one of those that loves the challenge of racing in the wet. Yes, it mixes things up a little bit and makes it more random, but Kanaan thinks he has the opportunity to make something happen. He just wants to get back up in the championship. He's so far ahead with the program than they were this time last year, and remember how strong they finished the year last season to get up to 7th in the championship. Well, they're 8th right now, so he can maybe capitalize on that second place finish at Texas last year as we see Connor Daly go off.
Connor Daly down there at turn 3 as he works it back up and gets going again. Actually, it was later in the lap than turn 3. Let's see what happened to Connor Daly in the Schmidt-Peterson machine. Looking for a good result today.
Looked like he just locked the front tires because the rear tires were still rolling over, so he probably locked the fronts, realized he wasn't going to make the turn, it would end up in the tires, went straight, spun it around, and got back going.
Connor drops back to 21st position. You know, we were talking about Tony Kanaan and his level of experience. TK has started his 243rd consecutive IndyCar Series race. Here he is. It's an Ironman effort. Nobody has that kind of record in the history of American open wheel racing.
You can see as these guys are running, there's a groove now starting to come into the track. It's allowing them to negotiate the track a lot easier as he's chasing on his compatriot here, the guy he's raced his whole career with, Castroneves. They always seem to be racing against each other since they were kids.
So far, so good. A couple of minor incidents, but it's been a pretty smooth start on a tricky day in Toronto. You're watching NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by Fight SMA. Learn more about the fight against childhood disease, spinal muscular atrophy. Go to fightsma.org. 10 of the Verizon IndyCar Series here on the streets of Toronto continues, and you rejoin us as Juan Pablo Montoya is playing catch-up. He and Scott Dixon had an altercation, and it forced the championship leader to take evasive action. Here's what happened, PT.
Well, just a classic pass by Dixon down the inside. Montoya tried to pressure him, locked the tires just a little bit, said, I'm not going to make it. He flips that around, and I did this one time, pulls out right in front of his teammate. I did that one time and ran into the side of Tagliani, and we got in a fist fight in the pit lane. But very, very lucky to get away with that.
Yeah, well, there's that A for attitude from Montoya. He wants to get straight back in the race, doesn't he? He's waiting for no one.
I do have to say, you were nice to Tag. You didn't, you're kind of...
He kept pushing on me.
He was pretty fired up. He was pretty fired up. So the order as you rejoin us is Power, Pagano, Dixon now third, Bourdais fourth, Filippi fifth, Sato the lead Honda in sixth, Castro Neves, and that's what the lead looks like. It's 5.5 seconds over Pagano from Power. Penske 1 and 2.
And you see that smart move by Pagano, getting some water on the tires. You can see the dry line forming now. He moved over to the right to get a little water on the tires. So now the dry line is coming. They're talking about Marco might come to the pit lane, we're hearing reports, and be the first guy. I think that's a little optimistic.
It's going to be a very, very brave move if he does that. But there's your dry line forming, PT. You're talking about right there. You can see it very clearly. Here we are, look.
That's a brave man right there.
Marco Andretti is the first to make the move to go. He's going to the Firestone alternate red tires and slicks. This is what helped make their race in Detroit. He finished second behind his teammate Munoz in race 1. They made the strategy pay off before, and Marco now out trying to hang on in the slick conditions.
Good lad, Marco, good
The
lad.
trick now is just being able to stay on the track, boy. This is going to be, look at that, just coming out of the pit lane, he nearly loses it, making this first corner on the concrete with slicks.
And look at this, race leader Will Power is not that far behind as Marco exits through turn 1 out onto Lakeshore Boulevard for the first time, racing on a track where his father, Michael, won 6 times in IndyCar Series competition. Here comes the race leader Will Power. This is going to give us a good example of those slicks, Steve, and the wet weather tyres that Will Power's on.
Every engineer, every strategist will now be looking at those dry weather tyre lap times versus the wet times now. Must be incredibly difficult. I mean, talk about being on ice, Paul. We talk about that in dry conditions around here, and we've talked about it on the wet weather tires in the rain. But when you've got the race leader right behind you, look how the car's squirming.
And the thing he has to do, he has to stay on the lead lap, because if he loses this lap, it's all for naught. So it's going to be crucial that he keeps Power behind him until he pits.
And let's not forget Marco's unbelievable run of late. Andretti has had 4 top 6 results in the last 4 races, including a podium. Marco is 6th in the championship. It's not like he's got nothing to lose. He's got plenty to lose here.
Marco's son, you've got to stay ahead of him. You've got to stay ahead of him. If this strategy is going to work for Marco Andretti, he must stay ahead of Will Power. Oh, but boy, oh boy, is it getting difficult.
Pretty sure that was the voice of Tim Cindric, Penske Racing's president, saying to Will Power, just be patient.
He's got to make Power go into the wet to pass him. Hog that dry line. Do not get off that dry line.
And Power is patient. Up into turn 3. Steady, steady. We're hearing...
Whoa!
Montoya's in. Yarn's there.
Pablo Montoya is also going for, as we watch the action on the right side, that was a quick change. The difference between Marco Andretti and Juan Pablo Montoya, Montoya is going out on scuffs, and that will possibly give him a little additional grip right off the bat.
Marco now is starting to pull away, so these dry tires are coming in, the temperature's coming, and now he's pulled away from Power, and I think you'll see Power any minute come in.
Nice job, Marco, nice job. He's done exactly what the team would have asked of him. Be patient, be calm, get the tyres up to temperature. Remember in IndyCar, no tyre warmers, so they would be cold. But now look at this dry line down the main straight here, Paul. It's all playing into those dry weather tyres.
Guess who else has done it, guys? Luca Filippi did it, Ryan Hunter-Reay did it, Jack Hawksworth as well.
I think at this point, guys, in my opinion, Will Power's on the wrong tyres.
Katie?
Sebastian Bourdais is a 2-time winner here on the streets of Toronto. He said the track's just not ready yet. They adjusted tire pressures and went for sticker reds.
We got some outside.
Castro Neves is the first of this group on the end to go, and he's going to go similar to Marco Andretti with the sticker alternate red Firestones. That seems to be the one they'll give you initially the most grip. Nice quick stop for Castro Neves, and I would imagine, just like Steve said, Will Power's going to have to make this choice pretty soon.
I'm telling you what, if Will Power doesn't come to the pit lane on this next lap, if it goes yellow, he'll go to the back of the field, and everybody has made their stop.
Yeah. It was a very, very brave move and a big gamble by Marco Andretti to go onto those dry weather tyres, but it has paid dividends.
He's been the Pied Piper. Everybody followed his move.
Rahal had his hands full there, didn't he? Fighting with the Dale Coyne entry of Tristan Vautier. Here comes Montoya. Montoya on the outside. Dry, slick tyres out in the wet. Montoya wheel to wheel with Rahal, and the Colombian does it. The points leader rounds Rahal up. The race leader is in.
He is also going with the sticker Firestone alternates. Not making any changes other than that. The action is furious out on the track, and Will Power now, where is he going to slot back in? Was this too late, or is this going to work for Will?
It looks good. It looks good, as you see up at the back there. Pagenaud comes out as well. Pagenaud definitely a lot closer to Will Power, considering at one point Power had a 5.5 second lead over the Frenchman. Let's ride with Pagenaud. Paul Tracy, that first lap out on dry weather tyres has got to be anxious.
And you saw Pagenaud make a small brake bias adjustment. You would obviously adjust the brake bias for the rain versus the dry. We saw him move the brake bias a half a turn. And look at this group of cars, just nose to tail after they've all pitted. Now their tires are up to temperature and it's a fight.
Put on the dry line, you know what to do.
The voice of Brad Goldberg, the engineer, the race engineer of Charlie Kimball. You know what to do, he says. Charlie's been having a terrific season in 2015. Raced incredibly well at the Indianapolis 500, Texas as well.
Well, they're using the curbs now. They've gone back to on the concrete. They're climbing the curbs, so they've got enough trust in the tires that are up to temperature now and start using this concrete patch now. Getting on the gas. We've got a dry line onto the back straightaway. This is good stuff.
Yeah, Will made it round. Pagenaud made it round turn one. But again, Paul, as you say, coming down into turn one on these tyres, that inside line on that concrete, it just looks like ice.
For the Penske pair up front, Power and Pagenaud. No immediate stress. They've got a healthy lead over Scott Dixon in third, Bourdais fourth, and Luca Filippi in fifth. NBC Sports is your home of motorsport, and we're pleased to say that NASCAR returns to NBC July 4th weekend live from Daytona with the Sprint Cup Series Coke 0400 powered by Coca-Cola. And it all begins July 4th with the Xfinity Series Subway Firecracker 250 here on NBCSN. We welcome you back to Toronto. Lee Diffie, Paul Tracy, Steve Matchett with you here in the booth. Jan Beekes, Katie Hargett, Kevin Lee, Robin Miller working pit road on an exciting day in Toronto. Why is it exciting? Mixed weather conditions, mixed track conditions, and it can do this kind of stuff to you. Even for someone like three-time Indy 500 winner Helio Castroneves.
Very, very lucky there. He got on the damp part of the track, lost the rear end, touched with Sato, lost a couple positions, but look at Pagenaud. He was about 3-4 seconds behind Power before the stop, and he's hunting him down.
I think that time spent behind Marco Andretti initially, Steve, may have brought Power back a little bit to Pagenaud, but the largest margin was 5.5 seconds. Pagenaud's right with Power.
Yeah, but as the track starts to dry out, it makes me wonder the different setups that may be on these two cars. You know, it's only that little, a couple of pounds different or so on the springs, maybe a slightly softer, stiffer roll bar. I'm going to suggest here that perhaps Pagenaud has opted his setup towards more of a dry setup than the rain setup, and as the track starts to dry, Will is starting to lose pace now relative to the cars behind.
And the very interesting thing about this is that we found out in qualifying that this weekend, Simon Pagenaud has been allowed to kind of do his own thing with his engineer, Ben Bretzman. He says, I have a few artifacts, as he calls it. In other words, little details on the car that he used to like with previous teams that he hasn't done with the Penske model. But now they said, okay, we need to make you comfortable. Well, they have. And you can tell by the way he's aggressively taking this car around the track. He's closed the gap to Power, and he's now happy with this Street Course 7 and just made a change. The left hand was making changes on those anti-roll bars that Paul was just talking about.
And this morning, Steve, Paul, and myself had a very interesting conversation with Team Penske President Tim Cindric, who said, listen, when Simon began his tenure with the team, Tim said, look, just take time to settle in. If you get results, good results straight away, that's going to be a bonus, but it's going to take some settle-in time. You're with Power, you're with Montoya, you're with Castroneves. They're part of the furniture around here. Even though Jan is relatively new to the Penske organization, they know how our policies and procedures work. So just take your time. Simon, I think, wanted to come into the drive of his career and just start bringing those results. They haven't come, but now Simon realizes he's now eased into the team and those results are coming.
And I certainly know how he feels, because when I came into Team Penske, was teammates with Rick Mears, Emerson Fittipaldi, and you know, it was what Cindric said
at all.
Cindric said, you know, he just doesn't know where he stands in Roger's eyes, where he lies, and that takes a little bit of time. It takes some wins, and you know, I was certainly, when that win comes, you'll be the apple of Roger's eye.
So that's first and second. Back in third is Bourdais. Dixon is fourth. Filippi. Sato is the best Honda runner in sixth. And then there's been a terrific scrap involving Graham Rahal and Helio Castroneves, Tony Kanaan and Montoya. Let's take you back a few moments ago. Check this out. On board with Rahal. Look how close they get. Watch this. Ooh. Down into three, and that has been going on lap after lap after lap, and Helio is not giving in at all. Rahal is putting up a dogged performance. He's very determined.
Rahal right on the gearbox, the car ahead, but again, I think we're into that situation, just starting to lose the front wing. Gets close, gets too close, and then the air just washes away on the front wing. You've got to pick your moment, Paul, but when you want to make those overtaking maneuvers, you've got to just do it. You can't afford to hang around too long, because you'll start to lose that front wing you get understeer on the car.
When you think of the guys that Graham Rahal's fighting with here, he's got Montoya up in front there, Helio Castroneves, and then Kanaan. Think how many race wins there are that he's surrounded with, that he's battling with.
Yeah.
Sebastian Bourdais in the Hydroxy Cut entry for KVSH Racing, doing a nice job. He's in third place. He's a two-time winner here on the streets of Toronto. Things are looking good for the Frenchman.
Jimmy Vasser is not only a team owner for Sebastian Bourdais, but you're also calling the race for Seabass today. Jimmy, what's the word on the radio for him today?
He's pretty comfortable. You know, we went to some used red tires that had some laps on them, so you know they may fall off a little earlier than the new set. So we're trying to have him conserve the tires. He's done a good job, moved up to third, so probably going to be 2 more stops.
He was concerned this morning about the wet surfaces and how slick this circuit is. Is he happier now that it's starting to dry out?
You know, he's pretty happy, but he's pretty darn good at all surfaces. So, you you know, he's always got something a little bit to complain about, but he's a great champion.
Thanks, Jimmy.
All right.
I said to Sebastian Bourdais earlier this weekend, hey, you were born and raised in Le Mans. Today, this weekend, was the running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. He and his dad have competed in it multiple times. I said, does it bother you that you're here when you could be running there in your hometown? He said, in the early
Right
days...
there, it's good pace. That's right at the leader pace. -6 plus 3.2. Keep it up.
He said in the early days it did. You know, occasionally if I was involved in a program and I had to say no to Le Mans and yes to IndyCar racing, he said, but now this is my focus. He said, it's just nice that I know what's going on in my hometown.
Well, he's done all the experiments. He's been to Le Mans. He's been to Formula One, and he realizes, you know, this is his home and this is where he's going to make his living, and I got to make the best of it.
And he is the focal point of today's Chevrolet driver profile. Sebastian Bourdais in the Hydroxycut entry. Hydroxycut's corporate headquarters are here in Toronto. So it's a huge day for him and for Jimmy Vasser, for Sully, James Sully Sullivan, and the whole team involved at KBSH Racing. Kevin Kalkoven, everybody, all hands on deck. They're trying to get a good result for Bourdais, again, to make him a two-time winner in 2015. Kev?
Well, we know Takuma Sato, as we're watching, likes the wet. He got by Helio Castroneves early on. He's picked up another spot, running 6. Larry's talking to his driver, Larry Foyt, on the stand. So, do you go wet setup or did you go more drive? It might make you even better later in the race.
Kind of in the middle, you know, something that would work in both situations. So, right now the car looks pretty good. Just got to see how long the red tire lasts for us.
And you've got 2 more stops to come, right?
Yeah, it'll be 2 more stops.
All right, we'll see them come in on black tires the next time, and they have 1 more set of reds for the final stint as we continue to watch this battle for the lead.
How about this? Power and Pagano, the friends who became rivals who have now become teammates. This is good stuff. Team Penske 1 and 2. Power, the reigning series champion, up against the new man inside Team Penske who wants to make his mark.
Certainly had their drama last year when they were not teammates, they were friends. Power punted Pagano off. I don't think Pagano has ever really let that go as he's making a move here.
Oh, here
he's making a move, but he's going to make him go to the wet. Can he do this from the outside? Outbreaks him.
Deep, deep, deep into turn 3, and maybe too deep. Pagano just pulls it back on the line.
Power nearly lost the back of the car. He snapped oversteer.
So one thing you may have noticed in our broadcast today that is not visible that we sometimes show you is the pushes to pass. The teams, the drivers get 10 of them. It gives them an extra boost of about 50, 60 horsepower. This weekend, IndyCar deciding they are not going to make it visible to us, to you, or to the other teams. Inside the individual and respective teams, they will know how many they've got left. They can communicate that to the drivers. However, Derek Walker, the president of competition and operations for IndyCar, said, look, I think that they're using it too defensively. And he said, I want to make it a little bit more intriguing and more interesting, Jan, just to spice it up a little bit for these guys.
Boy, and this is spicing the racing up, isn't it? Pagano right on the gearbox of Will Power again, ahead. You've got to make the move, though. Don't get in the wash and turbulence and ruin that front wing. Drop back again. There it is. Paul, it's so difficult. You can see it's so close and then just cannot pull it off.
The overtake. Save the overtake.
The rear of Will Power's car is stepping out more and more, lap by lap, corner by corner.
Let's go down to Team Penske with Jan.
And Tim, you're just making those calls, telling him when he has someone on the outside. Are you on a full dry setup, or have you done a bit of a mixture for Will Power?
There's been a bit of a mixture today. I mean, you couldn't go full dry, you couldn't go full wet with the way the conditions were.
That concerned you when Pagano was that close on the outside in turn 3?
Well, anytime you see the guys racing close together, regardless of who they are, it's concerning, but we'll see what happens.
All right, obviously very intense moments down here watching his 2 team cars battle for the lead.
The old golden rule, Paul Tracy. You can race, you can pass, you can't hit. And speaking of teammates, the other 2, Montoya and Castroneves, and this is in reverse. Remember before when Montoya went long there, and Helio Castroneves losing 2 positions. Back up for the lead, car 1, position 1. Power and Pagano, first and second, and Simon continues in that Avaya entry just to hassle and hound Will Power, the race leader, who's trying desperately to win for the 3rd time and reduce the points deficit to 1 Pablo Montoya. Back in a moment.
as Simon Pagenaud continues to battle with Will Power. The question would be, after hearing from Tim Cindric, does Simon Pagenaud have more of a dry setup? Because we heard that from Will Power's case, he kind of has a mixture between wet and dry. Check with their team, they said no. It turns out the setups on the cars are very similar. However, we feel as though the 22 team for Simon Pagenaud, we have the faster car right now. We just have to figure out how to get by Will Power. And I can tell you, a few moments ago, we got a fairly significant sprinkle, and it's starting to pick up a bit here on pit road. So the teams are going to be thinking, I don't really need to stop for fuel, but am I going to need tires soon?
Rain coming back. The size of the cell that pushed through here over Toronto from the west, from the southwest, was very large. We got lucky. Oh no, James Jakes is not lucky. The Schmidt-Peterson entry.
It is raining harder now, and it's getting slicker, but as you know, we go full course yellow now.
That was Joseph Newgarden in the pits, released and gone. Did he get wets on, or
I think he's on wets.
Went for wets.
I think he is on wets.
Munoz pits and goes back out on the slicks.
The guy who was closing was Bourdais, was closing in on the leaders, but this these two guys making it before the yellow could really pay off for them.
Yeah. I think this is the wrong tyre choice though, Paul. I don't think those dry weather tyres are going to be the way to go, especially if that rain picks up. We just saw a fairly significant slide from Will Power as the back end of the car went away.
I can tell you that we've got confirmation from the pits that Newgarden along with Munoz on slicks. So let's have a look. This is what happened to James Jakes to cause this first full course yellow.
Just a lock up of the front tire, and you're not going to make the corner. And not any damage there, just bounced off the tires. He just stalled it and needs to get started.
Yeah. You've never been to the Exhibition Place circuit here in Toronto. That run out of turn 4 up to turn 5 is a lot steeper than what it seems on TV, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is, and very bumpy as you level out on top and hit the braking zone. There's a bunch of bumps there, and you can see he locked up the inside tire. The Humboldt team there to start him up with the onboard starter. Pull him out, and away he goes.
The whole Matro safety crew team are best in the business, as we mentioned earlier in IndyCar Live, presented by Verizon. The guys and gals who saved James Hinchcliffe went to the rescue at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and if you've just joined us, Hinch is actually here on site with the Schmidt-Peterson team and seeing fans and friends and family and everybody wishing James Hinchcliffe well, recovering from those horrendous injuries and that very scary crash in the lead up to this year's Indy 500. So the James Jakes situation taken care of there at turn 5, and our first and only yellow, full course yellow in this race thus far, as we fast approach lap 30 of this 85 lap event. It has been a terrific fight up front between Will Power and Simon Pagenaud, racing for Team Penske. So pits are still closed, in case you're wondering why nobody dove for pit lane just then. They're packing them up behind the Honda safety car. And it has been an interesting race, to say the least. Hey, one thing, if you've got a very watchful eye, just to the left, to camera left here, you may have noticed a change in the local landscape. There it is. There is a huge hotel and condominium complex that's being built there, just a little bit down from where this camera angle here is, right at the Prince's Gates, and it has certainly changed the landscape. That should be completed by this time next year when we come back to race at the Indy Toronto. Jan?
And Lee, talking about changing landscape, the situation for Joseph Newgarden and for Carlos Munoz, they caught a great break. It looks like everyone is set up here on pit road to go with slicks. Because they have gone with slicks and beat this by 1 lap, they are going to cycle through to the front. Maybe not all the way to the front, depending on who else may not pit. But this is really going to play in their favor. It looks like everyone up and down pit road is going to the slicks.
All right,
now for Helio Castro Neves, he had some interesting radio conversation just a moment ago.
How's the car?
Well, it's too slow in the straightaway.
Got 10 more.
Yeah, it pushed turn 3 and lose some of the corners.
Overwhelming theme there was too slow on the straightaways.
Yeah, I wonder if he put that rain gearing in, which would be a shorter top gear. Could be on the eliminator. We're going to see the guys come to pit lane, and this is really going to help Munoz and Newgarden will cycle them to the front, and track position in a race like this is everything.
Here we go. Let's start with this round of stops. Katie Hargett, your first up.
Sebastian Bourdais' team specifically asked him about the conditions and let him make the call on what tires he wanted. He said he wanted a set of scuffed reds and a little bit of front wing if they have time. Jan?
And now this is going to be a battle of position. The front runners, of course, Will Power right behind Simon Pagenaud. But keep your eyes open. Let's see who. Of course, Will Power gets away first, but Pagenaud might lose a spot. This is very close between Bourdais and Dixon. Wow, what a group of cars at pit exit.
Dixon and Bourdais were wheel to wheel. Bourdais wins that race off pit road. Power does as well. And cycling up to the front, Castro Neves, Newgarden and Munoz, who did not pit that time around. Of course, Newgarden and Munoz in before the yellow. Castro Neves stayed out.
I tell you what, I've been in that position with Bourdais at the end of this pit lane, and he was pretty kind to Dixon and not take his wing off like he did to me.
Good crowd on hand here at Exhibition Place, and they're witnessing a special one today. Here we go, back in Toronto in time to see the green with Helio Castro Neves, who did not come into the pits on that time around. Helio, your new race leader, look at this. Oh, Gonzalez on the inside of Carlos Munoz, and almost a collision at turn one on the restart.
Nothing to lose for him. He's going for it. Power and Pagenaud got to really be careful with this guy because he wants to show well and has nothing to look at. Pagenaud back and forth, over under, trying to make a move.
Power just positioning that number one Verizon Chevrolet perfectly to make life hard for Simon Pagenaud. But they're going to try and work through this traffic. Gonzalez, Munoz, Newgarden, and up ahead, the race leader, the new race leader, Helio Castro Neves.
Yeah, Simon Pagenaud just working that wheel left, right, trying to find a way through.
Oh, whoa, determined is the 22 of Pagenaud, and he's got another Frenchman behind him. Sebastian Bourdais would dearly love to be a three-time winner here on the streets of Toronto, so he's pushing his cause right now.
He is. Bourdais is right on the gearbox of Pagenaud, thinking if Pagenaud's concentrating too much on Will Power ahead, I'm going to make hay while the sun in this case, isn't shot. I'm going to make the moves on Pagenaud.
During the ad break, Paul Tracy said, I like the strategy from Helio Castroneves. Tell us why, PT.
Well, now that I think about it, I didn't realize that he didn't pit before that yellow, so he's really, really hung himself out here, and is going to have a lot of luck. But I think the two guys that have the best chance here, if they can just stay off of each other, is these two guys, because they pitted and they have everything.
Munoz has got his hands full with fighting Newgarden and looking at Gonzalez in the rearview mirror. Then he's got the hard charging Power and Pagenaud forcing their way through. How well can it go for Newgarden, who has not done much in all due respect since winning at Barber Motorsports Park?
Yeah, when Newgarden came out of the pits, I wondered whether or not he'd taken those wet tyres, but he hasn't. He is on dry weather tyres.
And thankfully so.
And thankfully so.
That rain's gone away.
Yeah, because it was an absolute masterstroke, because it just started to spit when these guys came into the pits.
Just goes to show you the track position is so key. It locks up Gonzalo. This could be interesting on the straightaway, Kevin.
You mentioned that he hasn't had much luck since the Barber win. 3 of the 5 since then, 20th or worse. Andy O'Gara, one of the team managers with the team, said that really what they've been doing is just trying to survive. They've had a multitude of crashes between the two team cars, and look at the inside. It's Power getting around there. One of the coin cars, Gonzalez, for a position. Gonzalez is on a different strategy. But it's been simply a matter of survival, and they haven't been able to work on the pace of the cars, but they have felt good here this weekend. The CFH team has had good street course setups all weekend, and they were relatively confident coming into this race today.
That was a savvy move from Will Power, putting a roadblock between himself and Simon Pagenaud. Now it's going to make life hard for the driver of the 22 Avaya entry. Pagenaud now has to get by Gonzalez, keeping in mind he's got Bourdais, Dixon, Filippi, Montoya all charging down on him.
Yeah, he can't really afford to mess around with Gonzalez too long, because that will allow Will Power to stretch away from him again, and he'll have to do everything all over again and chase him back down.
Yeah.
He's got I think he's going to have a good run here.
Out onto Lakeshore Boulevard one more time, and look at how effectively Power has gapped Gonzalez and putting that distance between himself and Simon Pagenaud. Pagenaud in turn has bought himself some real estate from Bourdais up into turn 3. Now the Hydroxy cut machine catches up to the Penske entry. This is a good scrap, and all of these guys in this mid-pack except Gonzalez, if you take him out of it, they're all on a very similar strategy. Newgarden and Munoz have 3 laps less fuel than the others, and Helio Castroneves is on a strategy all of his own. He's building time, but he needs to, Steve.
Yeah, he really does. He's got to try and figure out that strategy. At the moment, he's running up the top, it is, but where do you make that pit stop? Behind him, Newgarden doing a fine job on second, and again, just making the perfect pit stop, but not getting onto those rain tyres as I thought he was going to. But further down this order, how does Pagenaud make that move now on Gonzalez? It was a great move by Power to get around Gonzalez and try and make some room, and Bourdais is right on the transmission of Pagenaud. Pagenaud's now caught between a rock and a hard place.
Riding with Ray Hall, he sits 12th, chasing fellow Honda driver Takuma Sato.
And now look at the front wing vibrate on this car, Paul. As we're running in drier conditions and the cars are getting faster, all of a sudden we're starting to see that fluctuation again.
Oh, contact there between Charlie Kimball and Stefano Coletti. It was just a little clip on the front wing. Coletti gets through, and so too does Marco Andretti. You're watching NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by Steak and Shake, home of the original steak burger and proud sponsor of number 15, Graham Rahal. NBCSN's coverage of the Verizon IndyCar Series. We welcome you back to Indy Toronto. And as we return, we are under our second full course caution. There's debris on the track. Stefano Coletti for the KV Racing Technologies team. And that's part of his carbon fiber bodywork. There is the Monegasque driver who, to be fair, has had a rather disappointing first IndyCar series. Now, this is the first of two incidents. He collides with Charlie Kimball, front left wing end plate and Charlie Kimball's rear right tyre, and this in turn, Steve, punctures Kimball's tyre and sends him to pit lane. This was a few moments ago.
Yeah, Charlie Kimball, and then we see Pagano and Gonzalez getting into each other as well.
That was Simon saying, PT, hey, by the way, I'm just letting you know, I'm not going to sit behind you for much longer.
I tell you what, it's very risky to knock stuff around with these new front wings. They're so sensitive, as we see Coletti.
And there's Coletti, bang, straight in, and this did the big damage. The major damage to Coletti's car is the right rear suspension is broken. And as the car came into pit lane, you saw the mechanics looking at it, but it's all around the right rear. I think broken drive shaft or broken steel wishbones, but that right rear took a real clout.
For a guy who won in GP2 Series competition some 8 times, he's shown very little in the Verizon IndyCar Series, and the team would have hoped for more from the man from Monaco, and he ends his first appearance in Toronto like that with a rather heavy clout. So, Helio Castro Neves, who leads the field, decided to roll the dice, play a different strategy than others. We'll see if this is going to work out for the Brazilian.
Yeah, the question is, how far can you push?
We're almost halfway.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jan?
Well, I think this caution came at exactly the wrong time for Helio Castro Neves. He has to come on board here and get some more of that Sunoco E85. He has no choice. Everyone else is going to stay out. He had about a 7-second gap, and the field was strung out, so he may have maybe slotted in about midfield. Now he's going to go right to the back, exactly what he did not want today. They're going to take the opportunity to go ahead and put some sticker Firestone alternates on here. Again, he's going to lose all of his track position. And now for Castro Neves and for the captain, Roger Penske, they have to think, okay, well, that gamble didn't pay off. How can we pull another one later on? Because he's going to need a miracle now to get to the front.
I wonder what plan B was. I kept hearing Roger say plan B, plan B, plan B. So maybe we can get some information.
Good job there, buddy. Sorry.
But not the best scenario.
Rodolfo Gonzalez, who you have to say, even though he was off strategy as well, he did a pretty good job of hanging with the big guys.
Yeah.
Made life hard for Will Power and Simon Pagenaud for a number of laps in the Dale Coyne entry. But a decent performance there as we circle under yellow. James Jakes, who had an incident, caused the first yellow, also coming out of pit lane with Gonzalez there as well. So we will regroup here. Indy Toronto round 10, and a first-time winner in 2015. Joseph Newgarden is the leader again. Glad to have you with us here on NBCSN for the Verizon IndyCar Series here in Toronto, this legendary circuit. And as we turn to our Carfax track facts for today, and this beautiful park that is Exhibition Place. You see the Prince's, not Princess, the Prince's gates down there at the end of the main straight, and it's quite an historic site. Did they hang pictures of Paul Tracy from there when you won 2 times, PT, or what have you? Got to climb the Prince's Gate? What happened?
They had a crane and lifted me up there, and I stood up there with one fist up in the air.
And did you yell, "My people, my people"?
My people, my people.
Well, unfortunately, somebody no longer in the race is Stefano Coletti. He's standing by with Katie.
Lee Stefano Coletti said he had good memories of Canada after winning in Formula BMW in 2006. But Steph, after contact with Charlie Kimball, what happened?
Well, I broke a little piece of my wing, and then I got to that corner in turn 5 and braked a tiny bit too late, locked up the front, and went onto the wall.
Stefano's teammate Sebastian Bourdais running 5th. Lee.
It's a DNF for the man from Monaco. As we run through the field, a man who is definitely, again, a title contender. How well does he sit in this race? We will see. He's sitting in 6th at the moment in a new paint scheme, and that is the 3-time series champ, Scott Dixon, with a little bit of a theme this weekend with Jurassic World. Take a look. Second full course yellow coming to an end. You rejoin us at the perfect time for Joseph Newgarden to see the green flag here in Toronto. The Barber winner from Birmingham, Alabama, racing well. He's got Munoz. Oh, Pagenaud on the outside, turn 1. Tries to get Will Power, can't do it, and loses the spot to Bourdais. That was swift work from Bourdais and a mistake from Pagenaud. He's sideways again and loses a spot to Dixon. He's scrambling. Here comes Filippi. That's 4 positions lost from Simon Pagenaud on the restart.
Wow, that was unbelievable.
On the outside, Bourdais. Bourdais and Power. Tried to get him, couldn't do it, Steve. Side by side, maybe now for Bourdais.
Power trying to fight back. Power, the rear end of Power's car stepping out, and it's no good. It's over. He's lost that spot.
Power to Bourdais.
Bourdais just absolutely flying on the restart. Got round Pagenaud, and then all of a sudden you could see Will Power really fighting with the car with the steering wheel to control the rear end. No good.
Now Montoya in that blue and white car is right up there with Simon Pagenaud. That was a restart that Pagenaud would like to do over.
Good gracious, that was incredible.
These two guys on the lighter fuel load have been able to stretch away as those other guys were fighting with each other. And this Honda still continues to work very well in cooler, damp conditions, running in second place as Hunter Ray slides down the inside of Kanaan.
Couldn't quite get it done there for RHR. It's Newgarden, Munoz, the best Honda. Bourdais, Power, Dixon, Filippi. So two CFH Racing Chevrolets in the top 6 position. Then Pagenaud, Montoya and Sato. Here on the inside is Montoya. Sato, the two XF1 drivers go wheel to wheel. Really wheel to wheel, and Sato does not give up to Montoya.
Sato will never give up. It's not in his DNA to give up.
No attack, no chance is his motto.
Absolutely.
And he is living it. He is driving it.
And Rahal got by Montoya with that exchange with Sato and Montoya fighting. Rahal was able to slip by.
What a race here on the streets of Toronto.
It's really come alive after this restart, hasn't it?
Outside of the Monaco Formula One Grand Prix and the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, this is one of the most famed street event races for open wheelers anywhere in the world. And this is the 30th year of competition. Incredible. Here in Exhibition Place, it always turns it on.
Yeah, this is incredible racing. As we see Connor Daly coming around turn 1 all over the back of Kanaan. And look at this. He gets a run on Hunter Ray when Hunter Ray tried to slide by. Goes to the outside. Big time over, out-braking him and around the outside the long way.
And Sato proved as possible. Daly proves as possible.
That's about the toughest pass as you can try to pull off.
Nice work, Connor Daly. And we're not certain how many more times we'll see Connor. We understand that Ryan Briscoe may be stepping back aboard the number 5. Katie?
Remember, Connor Daly doesn't have a full-time ride in the Verizon IndyCar Series this year. When I talked to him before the race today, he says he does feel pressure to perform, but he wants to make the most out of every single time he hits the track, Lee.
And he's doing that for sure. He showed us in Detroit, and he's doing well again here.
On red.
A little bit of communication from the team. Newgarden with a 1.5 second lead over Munoz. Bourdais, then Power and Dixon. Filippi, Pagenaud, Sato on the attack as well, and Rahal. So you got 3 Hondas in the top 9 positions. Munoz the best.
Yeah, Bourdais already trying to line up his position behind Munoz and trying to figure out where to make that move. There is a relatively big gap between Bourdais and Power. Power dropped back a little bit, or I should say Bourdais has pushed forward onto the transmission of Munoz. Bourdais did an absolutely incredible job.
He loves this place. He really loves this place. But you know what? The guy sitting in second for Andretti Autosport Yarn's doing a pretty nice job as well.
He is, and part of that was due to pit strategy. Ziggy Harkis, that was a great call getting in just before the caution, but now he's delivering with some speed.
Yeah, he's we've got a little bit of a gearbox problem at the moment as well. He's struggling with that, so just trying to hang on there. He's doing a great job out there, and just hope we can last through the race. Doing good though.
So just slow shifting, or is it an actual gear problem itself?
We're having a problem getting the upshift going on. We had a problem earlier in the week. We sort of come back again. We didn't have it this morning, so we think we're okay, and we're just going to let him make the decision. He's doing the best he can, and I think we're okay, but it's not great.
Great job considering.
Usually what happens when they have shifting problems with these cars, we've seen it over and over again. Running in the rain, you'll get some water in the coupler that mates the steering wheel to the car. As we see a pass by Jakes.
Kimball on the outside, wheel to wheel, and Kimball wins that argument. Talking about 21st and 22nd position here. These are the last 2 runners in the race, with Stefano Coletti being the only retirement.
Look at the brake calling, Paul, on the back of the car here. You can see here on the left side we've still got the black tape over the over the brake cooling duct there. This one, the tape has been removed open on the right-hand side. We're going to have to keep our eye on that as the race progresses. Clearly, those ducts were blanked off in the rain to try and control the heat, but now we're running in relatively fast conditions. Those brakes are going to get warm very fast.
Oh yeah, and there's some very, very heavy braking zones. At the end of this straightaway, the Lakeshore is as hard as you're going to see at any track, and you've got 3 major brake zones, so you do not want to have those brake ducts taped up when it's dry like this.
Graham Rahal chasing Takuma Sato. Takuma is excited for this race to be over because for the first time since before Barber Motorsports Park back in April, he'll get to go home to Japan to visit his wife and children. Spends the majority of his time in Indianapolis, Indiana. As we go back up the front and remind you about this talented young American, Joseph Newgarden, who led more than half of the race, the Honda Grand Prix of Alabama, for his very first Verizon IndyCar Series win, and he did it in very strong, dominant fashion. It was a day he was wondering when it would come. He knew it would come, but not quite sure when, and he delivered, and it delivered very well. And at the moment, the man from Nashville, Tennessee, has more than a 3-second lead. Newgarden out in front. NBCSN's live coverage of Indy Toronto continues. And this is your race leader to the tune of 6 seconds. Joseph Newgarden doing a fabulous job. Let's head to the pits. Here's Kev.
Takuma Sato has been consistently running between about 6 and 8. 8 right there. He's going to sticker red Firestones, Sunoco fuel, and Sato is back out for what should be his last stop.
Racing lap 55 of 85. We've got 30 to go. Good stop from Connor Daly. He's been running some pretty impressive laps, Jan.
and you say 30 to go, that is why people who we didn't see, for instance, Graham Rahal came on to pit road. As he flashes by, he had just come on the radio saying that his car was great, his race car was great. So what the team did, as soon as the pit window opened for fuel, they took it. This is the kind of gamble you want to take. You can get home from here. So now if there is a caution, like we saw earlier, and everyone else pits, he would get cycled to the front. Now, if I was Helio Castroneves, I would also do that. I'm surprised that they didn't take the gamble since they were out of sequence from early. Now, we see Pagenaud and others are going to do the same thing. Surprised it's Pagenaud and not Castroneves, but hey, why not?
Okay, wide open here.
He has lost his momentum when he tried to make that pass on power. So when you lose track position, go ahead and take the gamble, get this done early. Again, this is something you're paying forward with an 8-second stop. Dixon doing the same thing. This is only going to help you if there's a full course caution before the guys in the lead get a chance to stop. Otherwise, you're just losing and giving up track position.
Yeah, the key of these pit stops here really is, as Jan described, you can get home from here. A full tank of fuel, so a lot of fuel in the car. That makes the car very heavy, and you saw some sticker black tyres going onto the car at exit, but you can get the rest of the way.
Oh, look at this, Rahal. Rahal on the inside of Sato. Sato went wheel to wheel earlier with Will Power, and he won that battle. Now Graham goes around the outside. Rahal wins that one over Sato and gets through on the inside of Pagenaud. How about that?
Graham Rahal, what a drive again. That's unbelievable couple of moves.
Yeah, keep going, guys. They're pitting. You're doing great.
The last time we saw in Bourdais, he's done his stop. He's serviced and sent. Munoz has done, and Power. All right, here we go. It is on. You can't breathe in this race, PC.
It's incredible. This race is just hot and heavy. Guys are all over the track, racing, bumping, grinding, hitting wings. And this is going to be a key outlap for these guys because there's guys with hot tires right now coming on strong.
Got blacks around you.
It really, really is. That Graham Rahal radio earlier on, he was saying, I'm much faster than the cars around me. I'm much faster than the cars around me. That's what we heard on the radio earlier on. And the response there was to bring the car in, change tyres, fill the tank up, and boy, oh boy, is it paying forward now.
Leader is in. Here's Newgarden. Kev?
Joseph Newgarden gives up his second 7-second advantage. He got that because they came in before the yellow came out for that second stop. As we see Luca Filippi come by his teammate. It's a good stop. Sunoco fuel, primary black Firestones. Newgarden is back out. He won't need to stop anymore.
Yeah, and it's a long stop, wasn't it?
Watch your blood line out there.
Long stop, full tank, about 8 seconds worth of fuel delivery. Can go all the way.
Here we go. He's coming out, cycling out. Joseph Newgarden. Remember, he had 3 laps less fuel than those others around him. He rejoins right in front of Marco Andretti. Here we go, out on the Lakeshore Boulevard. Actually, no, it's Sebastian Saavedra. My apologies. Saavedra now in the 8 car for Chip Ganassi Racing, the AFS machine, side by side with Newgarden. He doesn't need to get tangled up in this.
He certainly doesn't need to get any involvement with this. He's on his own here. He's got a comfortable lead. He's got to let this all play out, not get in an accident with anybody that he doesn't need to get involved with.
Let's keep on board with this outlap. Look at the telemetry, 3rd gear, there's the revs and miles an hour at the top there, 100 miles an hour. It would have been so tempting for Newgarden's engineers to say, well, let's just about 5 seconds worth of fuel on board. That would have got us out and put us in better track position, but you couldn't get to the end of the race by doing that. And
Steve, you mentioned that Sunoco fuel. Anybody who stops later now won't need as much of that.
Right,
on Pablo Montoya, it will have a slightly quicker pit stop. So those, again, if there's no full course caution and you pit later, you theoretically can have a faster stop and pick up positions on track.
Teammates are going to meet on track. Montoya locks up and narrowly avoids hitting his teammate Will Power. Now Sebastian Bourdais wants a shot at JPM. The championship leader, and healthily so, is under siege here.
And he's been held up. Dixon is in the frame. Dixon can make a move by both of these guys.
Bourdais around the outside of Montoya. That was easy. Very straightforward there for the Hydroxy Cup driver. Katie?
Luca Filippi is pitting from the lead now. His team over the radio just now said, give us more laps just like that. They went from blacks to sticker blacks and fill it up with Sunoco fuel.
This is the race. This is the race and the performance that Luca Filippi's been waiting for, and the team. Let's see where he cycles out. He's racing his teammate, Joseph Newgarden, who comes onto the front straight right now. and Newgarden should easily have him in the Hartman oil machine and does so.
He's going to file in second, though, which would be a 1-2.
Keep it, keep it, keep it!
Woohoo! They're in 1-2. This is the best they've ever run.
CFH Racing, after a double DNF in Texas last weekend, now run first and second in this race. Provisionally so. How about that? What a turnaround that could be.
He would be over the moon. He was hoping for a top 5. We see Montoya and Dixon on the outside. He's not far enough up. Montoya holds the position. Look at Rahal. He's just closed in on these guys.
Graham Rahal arrives on the scene, who really feels he has a chance. How bizarre is this, guys? Last time we saw Joseph Newgarden lead a race was at Barber Motorsports Park when he won. Who was the guy charging through the field to second? Graham Rahal.
Yeah, it was Graham, absolutely. And Graham has got to do exactly that now. Remember that relatively long fuel stop, around 8 seconds. The only way that's going to pay off is not to lose the time, track position to the cars ahead. You've got to push forward now, because as Jan rightly says, anybody that's coming into the pits now, they only need around 5 seconds of fuel, so 3 seconds difference. Graham's got to make that up on track.
He's got a good run here. He came down the outside, had a nice line in. See if he can pull up. He's got the effect of the draft, but Dixon's getting the draft from the car in front.
Out of turn 3, up through the winding 4 into 5, climbing the hill. Kanan is technically your race leader at the moment. He's got 1 second over his old friend, that fellow 40-year-old, Helio Castro-Neves, with Gonzalez is back in third. Now look, here is the gap way back. We wait for Joseph Newgarden to come through in 4th place. James Jakes, who is not on the lead lap, he goes by. There is Joseph Newgarden. So working on Gonzalez is the next ticket on his list. However, there's a pretty healthy gap between he and Kanan, some 19.7 seconds.
Yeah, he needs to make quick work of Gonzalez.
All right, don't be scared to use the overtake if we can set him up. They're doing good.
Yeah, he can't hang around behind him for too long, because if he lets Kanan and Castro-Neves get too far up the road, they could effectively pit and come out in front of him.
Yeah. Remember, pushes to pass, not publicized for the first time this weekend on a road or street course. Will Power in the Verizon Chevrolet. Here comes Kanan now. Now remember that advantage over Newgarden, some 19 seconds. Kevin standing by at the Ganassi cab to watch the NTT data machine.
Watching Joseph Newgarden, where he comes through, and Kanan, can he get out there? He's not likely going to be able to beat him. Now he's looking to somehow get back up in the top 5. He's been generally running around 10th. Sequence put him where he's at. Sunoco fuel, Kanan back out. There goes Newgarden. Where will Kanan filter back in?
Nicely done. Here comes the NTT data machine out. Back goes Luca Filippi in the Fuzzies machine. Munoz, Power, and popping back out behind Will Power is Tony Kanan. Here comes Bourdais. Whoa! Almost hits Kanan.
Wow!
Arrived on the scene really rapidly. Now onto Lakeshore Boulevard. This should be an easy execution here. Around the outside goes Bourdais. Gotcha!
Textbook pass, and almost ended in tears when he ran into the back of Kanan as he came out of the pits, and Montoya's on the attack.
What a wild and frantic race. Helio Castro-Neves now leads over Gonzalez, and Helio has some 20 seconds over Joseph Newgarden. We're riding with Kanan, looking at Montoya.
Something caught on the suspension back here.
I think what it was is maybe some contact. It's maybe damaged that bumper.
Was it the Bourdais?
I think they certainly touched each other, and it might have broken that bumper. You see it flapping now.
Yeah.
Jan?
Lee, you just said that it was a 20-second gap for Castro-Neves. If you needed a full load of fuel, you lose 28 seconds on pit road. He won't need all the fuel, so let's say 25. So he's within 5 seconds. If he can somehow get 5 more seconds, he could pit and still stay in the lead.
That damage on Kanan's car, definitely from that hit from Sebastian Bourdais. Will it hang on, or will it hamper him? What a final stanza of this Indy Toronto. Don't go anywhere. Might see another young American win for the second time. as you may have seen at home, some pretty wild stuff here. Castro Neves pitted with a 23-second advantage over Joseph Newgarden and Rodolfo Gonzalez. You saw it at home, but let's relive it. So, Roger Penske, the call was go, go, go. There was a slight hiccup on the fuel probe on the right-hand side of your screen. Gonzalez, who needs to pit again. Joseph Newgarden. Sweep around the outside, but watch how gingerly Castro Neves is here. And Luca Filippi says, I'm going to get you.
And it's very, very close as he slices down the inside, nearly takes that bumper off the back of the car, and he makes a nice clean pass. And now we effectively have the two main leaders are the Sarah Fisher-Hartman team.
How about this, Jan?
Awesome racing, and so interesting. I thought that Roger Penske would gamble on the front end of the pit stops, but instead everyone else went on the front end and he went on the back end. So he just did the opposite. They called it Plan B. They called Elio on the radio and said they're going on Plan B, and this has faulted him after it looked like he was cooked. He's right back in the fray.
Revised order: Gonzalez, Newgarden, Filippi, Castro Neves, Munoz, Power 6th, Bourdais 7th, Canan, Montoya, Dixon 10th.
Yeah, Castro Neves just needed about a half a second to a second faster stop, and as you rightly poured out, Paul, there was just a problem getting the fuel hose connected onto the car, and if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have the problem with Filippi right now.
It's looking a lot better than it looked about 30 laps ago. He was at the back of the field, so obviously Plan B.
17 to go.
Plan B of Rogers, he certainly had something up his sleeve.
Dale Coyne Racing has pulled out fuel strategy wins before. Carlos Huertas winning in Houston last year was the most recent example. However, Gonzalez has 16 laps less fuel than Joseph Newgarden in the 18 car. Technically, he's leading, but it's a long stretch. Gonzalez there just causing hassle for Newgarden and for Luca Filippi. What a dramatic turnaround it would be in the space of a week if CFH Racing could turn around a double DNF into a 1-2 result in Toronto.
Yeah, it would definitely be a huge shot in the arm. They had massive, massive struggles in Texas, you know, handling all bad all weekend. Hey, Kevin, you got Sarah there?
Yeah, right now she effectively has 1-2 with Ed Carpenter, CFH Racing. You got the advantage when the yellow came out after you came in for that second stop. Lucky or just good?
A little bit of luck, right? We'll take it. I mean, both Joseph and Luca are doing a great job, both teams, and we just got to ride this out. We're waiting for Gonzalez to pit, so we'll just see how it goes.
Any issues with the car for Joseph right now? Has it been good throughout this race?
None at all.
So waiting to see what happens here. One more car to negotiate. Look at this, Katie.
Rodolfo Gonzalez is currently leading the Verizon IndyCar Series race, and his team owner and strategist Dale Coyne. Dale, what's the point of leaving Rodolfo out so long?
Well, we want him to lead his few laps, put him up in front and see how he does. Otherwise, he's got one more stop to make, so unless we get a belly washer and a red flag, we're not going to finish very well, but it's a good experience for him.
He doesn't have a lot of experience, but he's able to mix it up a little bit with the leaders. What do you think of him?
Well, I think he's done well. I think when we put him up in fourth, his lap times ran the fastest of the race, so he's raised his game to be up there, so that's good.
Thanks, Dale.
Thanks.
Take Gonzalez out of the equation. Joseph Newgarden hasn't got this one just yet. Luca Filippi is all over him, and entering the scene again is Elio Castro Neves. But watch this at the end of Lakeshore Boulevard. Filippi on the outside. These are teammates wheel to wheel through turn 3. Filippi says, Joseph, I'm here not just to support you, I'm here to win the race.
That was a very wise move to back out and not go side by side. So that could have ended in tears. Castro Neves is closed back in on this group. Powers closing back in with Rodriguez, the car in the lead here. He's holding everybody up. Gonzalez, he's bringing the field back together and closing it all up. So we're going to have a barn burner in these last 20 laps.
The three guys up there, Carlos Munoz out of the race. Ziggy Harkes told us earlier that they had some issues, and this talented young Colombian is out of it. But look at this, Newgarden, Filippi and Castro Neves, none of these guys have won here on the streets of Toronto. Could it be their maiden victory north of the border? What a day it's been. Gonzalez has pitted. That has cleared the way here in Indy Toronto for Joseph Newgarden, Luca Filippi, Elio Castroneves and Will Power to go at it. Here's Newgarden for CFH Racing, his Italian teammate in the Fuzzy's Vodka machine.
1 second to Luca.
Luca Filippi, he told me last weekend at the Formula One Grand Prix in Montreal, he was there in his full-time job as a broadcaster, he said, it's important for me to perform because I've been given enough faith from CFH Racing last year with Brian Herter Autosport, and I don't really feel I've shown the IndyCar paddock and everybody back in Europe what I can do in Verizon IndyCar Series competition. He's doing it now, Steve.
He's doing an absolutely incredible job. Both of them are, both the 67 car and the 20 car, quite frankly.
Not being a full-time guy, it's going to be important for him to get a good finish, but our man Newgarden's got to just put his head down now and push to the limit and pull a gap and give himself some comfort.
On board with Newgarden.
11 to go, 11 to go.
Time for our Chevrolet driver update, and it shows you how well they're placed, and it's quite simple really, isn't it? First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Best Honda in the field is Graham Rahal. He runs 9th.
And he's been able to be the best Honda all year long, having another great race, battling throughout the whole race, coming up now, and one more time, 10 laps to go. This is good stuff.
As we ride aboard the Honda, you can be a part of Honda's fastest seat in sports sweepstakes by going to shophonda.com and sign up. No purchase is necessary, and you could have the chance to ride in the Honda 2-seater and start a Verizon IndyCar Series race. Graham Rahal will keep a top 5 position in the championship point standings if he stays where he is. Joseph Newgarden would move up to 8th place, and that would be much needed. And for Juan Pablo Montoya, as Newgarden gets sideways, Montoya would still be the championship leader to the tune of 25 points if positions remain as is for the final 11 laps.
That's 1.3 to Luca, 10 to go.
Yeah, 10 to go. 1.3 seconds the gap to his teammate, but you just called it there, Lee. That was a pretty lurid slide from Newgarden. He doesn't want to do too many of those, Paul, and destroy those rear tires in these closing few laps.
You certainly don't, and you look at the straightaway now, we've had wet conditions, now we're getting marbles on the straightaway, which is going to make it even more difficult to pass when you have to go offline. But certainly Filippi, stretching on Filippi, but he is pushing to the limit.
Yeah. And right behind them in 3rd spot, Castroneves, we have to remember, is on red tires.
Kev, what do you got?
Well, from talking to Joseph this weekend, he felt like he had a good car and he had some confidence, but I never sensed he thought he had the chance to be this good. Now, obviously, circumstance has helped his cause here, coming in before the yellow came out with their pit stop. But then actually in that next stint, they went longer than the group that pitted 3 laps later. And once he's gotten up to the front, Newgarden has ran quick. He's been able to keep his gap, and barring something unforeseen happening, Newgarden might be on his way to his 2nd win. Katie?
Kevin, remember, this is just one of 2 tracks that Luca Filippi has experience at that's on the Verizon IndyCar schedule this season. He said earlier today they have a good baseline that's working on the street courses, and obviously very successful as CFH runs 1-2.
CFH Racing, the newly formed CFH Racing, the combination of Sarah Fisher-Hartman Racing and Ed Carpenter Racing. Now a 2-car team for the first time could possibly get a 1-2. You're watching NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by Sea-Doo. Find the watercraft that's right for you at seadoo.com. Just a quick break. We're going to take you all the way home to the checkered flag now here on NBCSN with Indy Toronto with the 24-year-old American Joseph Newgarden leading the way. Now, as we mentioned, pushes to pass would be invisible and not being able to be seen by competitors and for us. All we know from IndyCar race control is you have any left or not. So pushes to pass remaining. Felipe has some, so too Elio, and Will Power. None for our race leader, Joseph Newgarden. Just 6.5 laps to go.
He's really driving well. He's driven a smart race, stayed out of trouble, went to the dry tires early, cycled himself to the front, and now he's in control. He's just snapping at the wheel as he comes. He doesn't have the best handling car. He's fighting it, but he's out front, got clean air, and he's got a teammate, which is also good. He knows his teammate's not going to fight him too hard, but you got to push.
He's got to push, and I think that gives an explanation, Paul, why this gap is around 1.3 seconds and why Newgarden's pushing so much.
1.3,
yeah.
6 to go.
And there it is. It's an important gap because it will negate, hopefully for Newgarden, the advantage of that push to pass. Again, his competition behind have got them. He hasn't, but if he keeps a gap of about 1.3 seconds, really that push to pass won't come into effect.
I think if you look at it, if you're Penske, it's risk versus reward. These two guys really have nothing to lose. Castroneves Power are going to gain points on Montoya. Do I really want to stick my neck out and risk getting in an accident with these guys, or do I take what I've got?
And guys, think about the big picture. It's a David and Goliath story. You got the the newly formed two-car CFH racing team up against the four-car Team Penske monster. So this is a huge day for CFH Racing. There goes that work from Tony Kanan's car, and Montoya was able to flick it up over his front wing. And clears that damaged bodywork.
Yeah, that bumper finally fell apart, and it landed right in Montoya's lap, that happened with Hinch last year, and really caused him a problem at the Grand Prix of Indianapolis.
Here it is again.
Let's have another look at it. There you can see flapping around the right rear, just comes off. Look at that, straight onto the wing. Bang!
Flips it up and flicks it out of the way. Jeepers. For one Pablo Montoya. Kanan's able to continue, so too Montoya. These guys are back behind Sebastian Bourdais in 6th and 7th position. For our race leader, Joseph Newgarden. Here he is. He could join a list of Americans who have won this race. Bobby Rahal won the inaugural Toronto street race in 1986. Al Unser Jr., Michael Andretti, who was victorious 7 times, AJ Allmendinger and Ryan Hunter-Reay. What a list to join for young Joseph.
Starting to see more sprinkles on the television screen, and some drops starting to get a little bit more wet. So this race is not over. If it starts to rain, it's so easy to slide down the runoff.
Plus 1.7, 4 to go, 4 to go.
And Paul, you may have seen on the back straightaway a surface, what some people call the oil flag. That is because on some parts of the track, and I can tell you on pit lane, it's definitely misting more. But around one of the more slippery corners, turn 7, a corner worker had a surface condition flag saying it is starting to get slick.
Considering the size of the cell that we had move across Toronto from the southwest, Steve, we have been incredibly fortunate this afternoon.
Well, but with these closing laps now, these guys are going to have to be incredibly careful, because as we've said before, it only takes a light mist of rain on this racing service and the grip of these tyres will go to 0. But of course nobody can afford to come into the pits and take tyres. There was that flag we were talking about earlier on, the red and yellow flag, to indicate a slippery surface. These guys have got to hold on. You see Joseph Newgarden is really flying around this track. 1.6 seconds the gap to Felipe. There it is. He wants to keep it. He wants to keep that gap.
1.6, 3 to go.
There it is. There's the gap, and there's his teammate right behind. Joseph, of course, has no idea how many push-to-pass opportunities Felipe has. We don't know. The rest of the teams don't know. Joseph only knows that there is a possibility that he could take the fight to him in these closing few laps. He's got to keep pushing.
That was scary. That was take your breath stuff away as the pack stepped out on Joseph Newgarden. Quick hands, he caught it. PT, you're sweating up in here.
Yeah, I'm sweating, and they're pulling away from the Penske boys. These guys are pushing to the limit, and I think Felipe's got a quick car, and Joseph is just pushing to the limit. You got to be careful you don't lose it.
Listening to the voice of Paul Tracy, 2-time winner here in Toronto, the only Canadian to ever win this street race here in TO. Check it out. Rain starting to come down here. Closing laps, 2 and a bit to go for Joseph Newgarden.
We watch the in-car here. Look at this snap oversteer. Car's sliding.
Plus 1.4, 2 to go, 2 to go.
Picked up a 10th on that lap. He's barely been able to just hover it. 1 second to 1.4 now, so he's gauging where he needs to be. And they pulled quite a gap on Castro Neves now, who's on the Reds.
Yeah, Castro Neves is thinking, hey, I want to finish this race. I want nothing out of this. I'm going to pick up third spot. I'm all for that. These two guys, if they get close enough, could easily take each other out. Castro Neves is thinking, I'll stay right where I am, thanks.
Well, it has been some troubled times for CFH Racing in recent races at the Indy 500. Things didn't go real well in practice for either Joseph Newgarden or Ed Carpenter. And Ed in the race specifically in Detroit race 2. Both Joseph and Luca, remember Luca Filippi does the road and street courses, both crashed out. And as I told you, a week ago in Texas, both Ed Carpenter and Joseph Newgarden DNF. So this is a dramatic turnaround. It is an emphatic comeback if Joseph Newgarden can hang on to this Chevrolet for just 1.7 more miles.
White flag.
He's going to be a 2-time winner.
Keep it together, son. Keep it together on this last lap. It is misting. That track surface is becoming more and more treacherous. Your teammate is charging on strong. Keep it together, son.
We have had 7 different winners from 9 races. Joseph could call himself a repeat winner in half a lap's time. For Luca Filippi, it would be an IndyCar best. What a result for the Italian. Through turn 5 for the final time. No more threat from Penske. The threat is coming from the weather. And look at those hands, hard on the wheel.
Absolutely hard on the wheel. In these closing few corners, still pushing hard.
Since winning at Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama, it's not being too dramatic to say it's been a nightmare for Joseph Newgarden. However, he's going to turn it all around. The team's first 1-2. Joseph Newgarden, the 24-year-old American, wins in Toronto for the very first time and becomes a 2-time winner in 2015. It's a 1-2 for CFH Racing. They overcome the power of Penske, and Castro Neves, with that different strategy, comes home on the podium over Power and Bourdais, a top 5 finish. What a race in Canada.
I'll tell you what, I need a towel to wipe the sweat off of me. It's that was probably one of the best races I've ever seen in Toronto.
And a 1-2 for CFH Racing. What a result, Katie.
Sarah Fisher is the team owner that gave Joseph Newgarden his start in the Verizon IndyCar Series, and here she is congratulating all of her team. Let's see if we can just say, Sarah, how much does it mean for you to see Joseph come this far, from you giving him his start and now to 2 wins this season?
Oh man, I'm just really proud of everybody on this team. I'm proud of Joseph. I'm proud of the 20 car guys. To have Luca come home in the Fuzzies car, 1-2. I never would have thought that would have happened, but I'm proud of everyone, and I want to thank Wink and Libba Hartman. They weren't here this weekend, and I really wish they would be, but it's just amazing.
They weren't here for Joseph's first win either.
Big day, huge day for Sarah Fisher, for Ed Carpenter, for Wink Hartman, the CFH Racing organisation. Newgarden is their man, leading home a 1-2. Texas two-step, but maybe now it's a Tennessee two-step for Joseph Newgarden, the winner here at Indy Toronto, and for the second time this season. Kevin, what a way to celebrate.
It took 3.5 years to get win number 1, now just 6 for win number 2. Joseph, how much did your group need this after the problems and issues of the last month?
Just an amazing team effort. I can't believe that we did a 1-2 even. I got a little close there with Luca, but we were really trying to just keep up. After we got in to the final stint, I got a little bit of lap traffic, and I couldn't do anything with the lap traffic, and they really wanted me to because of everyone that was coming, and just close racing, but. We were disappointed with qualifying because we knew we had a faster car, and I'm just so happy we were able to get a win. But even a 1-2 is just amazing because Luca's such a star too, and it's amazing that he can get a second place as well. And we can give this team finally a 1-2 as their first year together. So that's just an amazing job by everyone. Super happy for the whole group.
As you mentioned, circumstance got you up to the front, but you were able to stay there. And then how challenging was it on slicks when it was still a little bit damp and it started raining a little bit a couple of times?
Oh, it was a tough day. I mean, it's tough for everyone. It really was. I mean, it was difficult with the changing conditions. It wasn't as difficult as you would think, like rain was coming down. It stayed pretty consistent. Once we started the race and the rain cleared up, or I should say the track dried up mostly, it stayed that way all the race. You just had to be really careful not to hit any slick spots that could really catch you out. Happy birthday to Johnny O. I know that's his birthday today as well. But just like I said, it wasn't quite as difficult probably as people thought from a slick conditions. I think everyone had the same thing to work with, and you just had to look out for the puddles. But it's all credit to the crew. I mean, CFH Racing, I can't say enough about them. All our owners that allow us to do this, all our sponsors. It's an amazing thing right now, and hopefully we can continue doing this. I mean, the year's not over yet.
Congratulations. 1-2 for CFH, and Joseph Newgarden has now won in multiple countries in IndyCar.
Nice job, and for Luca Filippi, his Italian teammate, that's Luca's best ever IndyCar result. Castro Neves hung in there, didn't he? And Bourdais finishing with a top 10. Another tough day for RHR Ryan Hunter-Ray. When we come back, we'll hear from Luca Filippi in this CFH 1-2.